Alright, I want to do a quick update video on everything that we know about the upcoming TASSADAR rework. There's been a bit of new information from the recent AMA. This is the same AMA where we got some news about the Diva rework, so let's go into some of the new bits and pieces of information that we have, as well as just remind ourselves of some of the other things that we already know about the TASSADAR rework. Alright, so the first bit of information we're going to be looking at is the overall approach to the TASSADAR rework. This is going to be from Blizzard's David Warner. Well, in fact, all of this information is going to be from David P. Warner. So, David?
We will watch your career with great interest.
So the first thing we're going to look at is, we're not ready to share specific details yet, although they kind of already have. I can say that we're steering him towards a spellcaster fantasy and playstyle that you would expect from a High Templar. Later also sharing that they have drawn a lot of inspiration from the Legacy of the Void opening cinematic and hope to capture the fantasy that it invokes. So I'm not sure if I've said this already, but one of the things in the Legacy of the Void opening cinematic is that the Archon is produced by two people. Here's the hoping that we see an Archon that is produced by two people. Anyway, moving on, what we know is that TASSADAR is moving away from the support role and becoming the DPS assassin role, like a spellcaster, like a mage. Think Minga or maybe Jaina, but more sustained damage as opposed to heavy burst. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but that is probably what we are looking at with the TASSADAR rework, so that's very, very exciting. Naturally, that means that we're probably going to be seeing a lot more damage on Psystorm, as well as potentially additional utility on Psystorm, and it looks like they're keeping the shield, which hopefully means that we're going to be seeing no shield that heals, but instead a shield that is just like pure utility shield. And that's pretty good. I like a pure utility shield. I choose all of the utility talents for the shield instead of the bloody healing talents, so I don't know, that works for me. Anyway, let's have a look at the next bit of information about the TASSADAR rework. Alright, I've talked extensively about this part of the TASSADAR rework, but let's get into it once more. We're still not ready to showcase the whole TASSADAR rework, but I wanted to pop in and share a little bit of information where it seemed appropriate. The current plan is that Force Wall becomes a base ability, replacing Dimensional Shift, which becomes its own talent, i.e. inactive. Being that this ability was a fully viable heroic choice on its own, we think it's appropriate to make a number of adjustments, including its cooldown, duration, mana cost, range, burst, delay, to bring it more in line with the basic ability. There is a currently toned down version of the Force Barrier talent that is still in its kit, as well as some new talents. And now I get to draw attention to the fact that TAS has an empty heroic option. Let the speculation commence. Now the reason why I bring up this part, not just because it is information that already exists about the TASSADAR rework, but also because, like, as you may know, I already did an extensive video talking about various ideas, various options that TASSADAR could look to for a second ultimate ability. That has actually drawn another response from David P. Warner. Good on ya, mate. Here we go. Internally, we have been joking about a Kamikaze Ganthrosaur ultimate for the last 5 years. That is, of course, referring to a potential level 20 idea that I had about Ganthrosaur, which is being able to just crash the damn thing into the ground and nuke everyone. I'd like to think that this idea inspired Junkrat's Rocket Ride, but I can't say for sure. Unlikely, but possible. I wanted to hit the hallucination fantasy somewhere in his kit, but a literal translation was too close to Abatha's Ultimate Evolution or Nova and Samuro clones. This was definitely a concern raised even in the comments section of the video that sparked this reply. So it looks like the developers and the community appear to be on the same page. I personally still think it's cool, but I can definitely understand why this would probably not be a good idea. We're also planning on keeping a slightly altered version of Oracle in his talent tree. So naturally it looks like his passive might still stay the same, it's unclear, which steps on the mechanic of hallucination being a scouting tool as well. I did spend a few days building out and experimenting with hallucination as an active that empowered your basic abilities, but it didn't end up working in-game as well as it did in my head. After activating it, your next basic ability would gain a vector-targeted opponent. That's very interesting. When cast, TASSADAR would create a hallucination at the cast position. instantly teleporting a short distance in the vector direction, then both him and his clone would finish casting the ability towards the original point. While super cool looking, it had its fair share of insurmountable problems and ultimately never made to a play test. It's kind of hard to imagine what we're talking about here, but I suspect it's like this sort of thing where you have TASSADAR, you're aiming that way for a Psystorm. You use, I don't know, is the idea to use hallucination pointed this way, so that like you've got a Psystorm incoming there, you point this way, and then TASSADAR sort of clones himself, and then both of them cast Psystorm forward? Is that the idea? I'm not 100% sure, but I could see that being potentially really difficult to use, as well as the idea that I had before, which was of course to clone another hero and being able to use their abilities alongside your abilities in this like 10,000 IQ sort of method. But I could totally understand why this is probably not going to happen. So what we're probably not going to be seeing is hallucination in the game, but we might also not be seeing feedback in the game, because a lot of people have expressed concern that feedback being a meta burn ability is something that Blizzard as a whole have directly negged on. As in, we're not going to do a mana burn ability. That is not going to happen. So it looks like feedback is not going to happen either. Whether or not we're going to end up with Gantrathor then, I don't know. We might still end up with something strange from somewhere else in the Protoss arsenal. We'll just have to see. But let's have a look at the next part of the information that we have about the TASSADAR rework. Finally, we're going to be looking at some of the new information about the TASSADAR rework. This time we're going to be looking specifically at his auto-attack ability. So Types a Lot on Reddit has asked, with the Assassin TASSADAR rework coming, what was happening with his auto-attacks? Is he still using the stationary beam, or are we going to go back to the classic stutter stepping with TASSADAR? So for those who don't know, before TASSADAR's current iteration, he used to have this auto-attack ability where he'd essentially just throw a little grenade at everyone. Not really a grenade, more like a plasma bomb, I don't know. Either way, this auto-attack would be consistent with the current iteration of High Templar in StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Previously, High Templar were unable to do any auto-attacks, so one of the main concerns about using High Templar in a giant army is that they just float in front of the army and then get shot to death, and that's really bad because they're super expensive units. Now, with an auto-attack, they actually stay at a range and stay within the army so that they don't immediately just float in front of the army and die, right? So that means that High Templar are a lot easier to use as opposed to before. But now, TASSADAR has his Beam auto-attack, and that Beam auto-attack was originally an ability, or rather a talent that you could pick at level 13, called Disruption Beam, and that basically slowed enemies down, as it does right now. So, are we going to go back to the old TASSADAR, or are we going to stay with the new TASSADAR? Let's see what David has to say. The current plan is that TASSADAR keeps the channeled beam auto-attack, but it has a host of changes from its live version. Personally, I'm fine with this, so long as some of those changes make it easier to keep that channeled beam on a targeted hero. I've mentioned a few times my desire to better capture the High Templar fantasy with this rework, and speed is definitely a big texture hit. I'm not sure what he means by texture, but let's continue. High Templar in the StarCraft universe are slow and plodding, especially in StarCraft 1. In StarCraft 2 they're a little bit faster, but anyway, I think it's important for that to be reflected in TASSADAR's kit. Giving him a passively reduced movement speed would be disastrous, cries Endeavor, but that's fine, that's going to be changed as well. But building appropriate cast times and periods of immobility into his kit, and then riffing on the downsides with talents, gives him a solid fantasy hit, as well as the opportunity for a far more unique playstyle. It might sound all negative right now, but it will make much more sense in the greater context of his reworked kit. I think right now his auto-attack talents work as their own cohesive build, or as complements to other builds. Just real quick, I think on that last sentence he might be referring to the current iteration of the upcoming rework, not his talents right now, because his talents right now certainly do not complement other builds. So, this is very interesting. I wonder what that means by saying building appropriate cast times and periods of immobility in his kit. I wonder what that means, because one of the things that I've wanted for TASSADAR with that beam is that he should be able to move while attacking. Like Diva, like Tracer. He's not going to be, like, even if he's able to move while attacking, he's not going to be as ridiculously overpowered as Tracer is at the moment, because Tracer does damage. Whereas that Tickle Beam doesn't exactly do damage. It's there, it's a utility beam. It's meant to slow enemies, but it's hard to slow an enemy down when you're stuck. When you're currently attacking, you're stuck. So one of the things that I have wanted is that you can move, whether it be at a slow pace compared to your target, or whether it be at the same pace as your target but still slower because he's slowed and now you're slowed as well. So I don't know, we'll have to see what talents are applied to the disruption beam in order to make it a lot more useful than it is right now. But definitely we're going to be seeing some changes to the Tickle Beam, and hopefully those changes make it a lot more useful. So that's everything we know about the TASSADAR rework that is coming soon. Obviously, the most exciting thing would be for it to come sooner rather than later, but with everything that we've heard so far, it looks like this is going to be quite a comprehensive rework. I'm more interested to see what they're going to do with the shield, actually, because that seems to be the only thing left they haven't really touched. I don't expect them to do anything about the Archon though, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Otherwise, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Heroes of the Storm action, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Initiating celebration.
Bye.
Yay!